Hey guys, Dwayne Estes, Executive Director of the Southeastern Grasslands Initiative. I'm coming to you live from an undisclosed location here in Middle Tennessee. And what we're about to take a look at is one of the best known wet grasslands in all of the Middle Tennessee region, and probably within the Mid-South. And it was discovered just a few years ago. But I want to show you kind of what a lot of people would think about when we talked about grasslands. You'd probably think this area back here would be the cool part. And in part, you're right about that. This field behind me is actually a prairie remnant, and certainly 150 years ago, it was the northern section of a prairie that was several 100,000 acres in size. But what I want to take you to is actually a lot cooler. And if you look behind me, you'll see this wall of forest. Over there is a very loud, busy 4-lane highway. And I'm in probably one of the top 10 largest towns in the state. Let's go take a look at something right here. So follow with me. And we're going to show you what super high quality endangered ecosystems look like that need our help in terms of management. They don't necessarily need to be preserved and locked away. That's not really what we're looking for. What we're talking about is management. They need, in some cases, prescribed fire. They need to have their canopies partially open through selective timbering. So this is what people think about with grasslands back here. Wide open, and certainly that's part of it. But let me tell you, this is what people need to start thinking about when we talk about grassland conservation. It's this, because this wasn't always grassland. I mean, it wasn't always a forest. It wasn't always a thicket. It was once grassland well before it became a thicket, well before it became a forest. Something happened that caused the grasslands to disappear. So I'm going to try to not beat up my legs, which are totally bare. I'm going to get through this, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be thick. There's lots of saplings in here. There's lots of greenbrier. And because of the way this edge is maintained, there's basically like a wall of vegetation. I can barely even get into it. If you take a look, it is tight. It's hard to go through that. Let's try it out. Here we go. Live action right here. All right, this is not put on either, guys. This is so damn thick, nobody wants to go in this mess. Deer hunters don't want to be in this stuff. Turkey hunters don't want to be in this stuff. Wildlife doesn't like it. Rare plants don't like it. And honestly, a lot of the American public doesn't like it either. Nobody goes into these kinds of places. But if they could be managed the way they need to be, they could be places that a lot of people would be drawn to, and they can make exquisite natural areas. So I'm just walking through, and again, you can just see how thick this is. But what we want to do is go down there. So stay with me. And while I'm walking, we're looking through a lot of young red maple trees, pretty much ecologically almost worthless in this region. We've got a few young willow oaks. Yeah, they're okay. We've got some young sweet gums. So what? Now I'm beginning to see grasses on the ground, a few ferns on the ground. And here we go. We're about to transition in to that sunny opening right there. That's the special spot. That's the sweet spot. Let's go look at it. So we're going to walk right through here. Now, guess what? We have another unnaturally dense edge to get through. I'm not sure we can, honestly. Look at that. It's so thick. Now, I'm not suggesting that all thickets are bad. We obviously need big time, in a big way, we need thickets. But we need the right kind of thickets. And I'm not talking about thickets full of red maple. I'm talking about thickets of hazelnut and hawthorn and crabapple. Those are good thickets. Not this crap I'm walking through. All right, now we're going to turn around, and we're getting into an open bog. Now, it's not a true bog like you would see in New England. It's different. In fact, here in the South, we don't really know how to classify a lot of these wetland type grassland communities. Some people have arguments about this stuff. My friend Alan Weekly, our chief botanist for SGI, would say it's a fen, F-E-N. A lot of people have called these bogs through the years, though. And so on the ground, there's a mix of things. There's some bushy bluestem. Andropogon glomeratus is in here. I'm seeing cattails over there. Lots of exquisite amounts of sedge diversity, like this Atlantic sedge right here, Carex atlantica. I'm seeing Joe Pye weeds. And what's really cool is if I were to look on the ground right down here, and I don't know if I'll be able to spot any for you at this moment, but there are 3 species of carnivorous sundews that grow in this little tiny wetland. And we're not talking about big. Ladies and gentlemen, this entire opening of this seepage wetland, this seepage grassland, this entire opening is probably 1 to 2 acres. And yet here it is in one of the top 10 biggest towns in Tennessee. You can hear the 4-lane traffic behind me. There's a degraded prairie upslope from it out in that field that's kind of at the edge of a industrial park. And yet in this little wetland are about 12 to 13 rare plants, including a couple that occur nowhere else in the state, and one of which in fact was just rediscovered after it hadn't been seen since the 1960s somewhere else in Tennessee. And you can see here we do have some cattails, and there's all kinds of rich shrub thickets on the back side of this. I'm gonna take you right into the heart of this. This is what I do, folks. Just stomp around right here in it. Earlier I had my feet out here and it sucked off my tibas, totally off of my foot. Had to go back and retrieve it. It was 2 feet under the mud. So in here we've got some really tremendous shrubs. There's both black and red chokeberry, the genus Aronia. We've got possum haw viburnum, Viburnum nudum. Loads of diversity right here on the ground. There's a state endangered iris that grows in here. And the nearest place you got to go to find it, except for a couple other places here in Middle Tennessee, you got to jump all the way across the Blue Ridge Mountains and get out on the Atlantic coastal plain of North Carolina and South Carolina, all the way up to the New Jersey Pine Barrens before you find it again. Tons of action-packed biodiversity right here. Now what I want to show you is really super cool. Look at this. You see that little grassy opening right back there? One of a kind, totally unique here to Middle Tennessee. It's a hill slope seepage fen, and it's got some real cool plants in it. In fact, that's where that iris grows. Let's go in here. My feet are all sopping wet, and oh yeah, look right here. Let's just get in here and lay down in it. Let's just get right here and lay down in it. Woo! Check it out, y'all. What we're sitting here right now is an extremely rare sedge. Right there. Not sure if you can see that or not. Carex buxbaumii. And it's beautiful. It grows in these wetlands, and it's got purple scales. It's the reason why I'm here today. But just a few years ago, we had no idea of its presence. But yet, it's filling up this little opening, which is about the size of a few rooms in a house. And yet, if we let this go without any kind of management, and now we're totally shrouded in urban development, if we let this go without managing it with fire, without some selective removal of trees, this wetland will continuously just shroud over and become shaded and shaded. And the more shade it gets, the worse off it's going to be for the totally rare type of wetland with you here. And seeing the Carex buxbaumii in here just going bonkers just melts my heart. It's so cool to see. Oh my gosh, come with me. Check it out. Oh my goodness, hang on. Here's that state endangered iris right here. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Check that out. Look at that. Wow. That's what we're talking about right there, y'all. Right there. Iris prismatica. Iris prismatica. This thing has super narrow leaves. Right there. Super narrow leaves. This plant is found, like I said, primarily over in the pine savannas along the Atlantic coastal plain. We've got a shrub in here called hardhack, Spirea tomentosa. Not too common anymore. So it's basically like I'm sitting in a little bit of a hill slope seepage bog in the middle of North Florida, except I'm not. I'm an hour east of Nashville, Tennessee. And on another hand, this Carex buxbaumii is not a species you'd find in Florida, but the iris is not either, but they're sort of symbolic of that southern coastal plain fire-dominated landscape. But on the other hand, because we're in this fen community, then a lot of the stuff here is more characteristic of northern habitats like Michigan and Maine and New York. So we're in this weird mixing ground right here. But I'm in a super rare type of wet grassland, or sedge land in this case. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you like what we do with the Southeastern Grasslands Initiative, stay tuned. We're going to be doing a lot more. And by the way, I'm also going to go ahead and mention that we are really excited. We just got a new grant with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for $300,000. And we're going to be working with our Partners for Fish and Wildlife Service program across 5 states to use federal money to work with private landowners to begin to restore remnant grasslands that need fire, thinning, and other kinds of things to help maintain them. So I don't know if this could be a good candidate or not, but we'll see. Y'all have a good day. Appreciate all your attention. Thanks.